this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to make a concrete druzy. I have a couple different examples here, and as you can see they all vary, which is part of the fun of this technique, is each time you do it it's going to turn out a little bit different. Here I have a pendant, and I'm going to show you how to make this pendant in the video. So I've used a mold, which I have right here. In the center is glitter rocks, and this is dyed concrete. And I've embedded an eye pin into the concrete so that I can use this as a wearable piece of jewelry. So I was able to make a bail for myself with that eye pin. To make a concrete druzy, you're going to need a mold, and you can use any shape mold you want, which is really fun. That opens up a lot of possibilities. You're going to need the concrete itself, and this is part of the Create Recklessly line by the Beadsmith, and it's really fun to work with. You get a nice big tub of it. If you want to color your druzy, if the basic outer concrete color, you're going to need some pigment. There's a lot of pigment colors to choose from. Just note that the color of the pigment is actually quite a bit darker than what your end result looks like, because you're adding essentially white to it, which is going to create a color somewhere in the middle between these two. And then for the sparkly druzy look, you're going to be using glitter rocks, and this also comes in a variety of colors. I'm just using the silver color. Then you're going to need some disposable measuring cups, a stir stick, and then if you do want to go ahead and make that bail with the eye pin, you're going to need some eye pins, or one eye pin per project, and then a pair of round nose pliers, a pair of cutters, as well as some tape. So let me show you how to go about doing this. Just scoot these guys back. I have to say, I have worked with a lot of different mixed media products, and I love the concrete, not only the look of it, but because it's really, really easy to work with. I've made quite a few little miscalculations here and there and done things a little bit out of sequence, and it's been very forgiving. So that is a really nice attribute of the artist concrete. The basic formula to mix up your concrete is 1 tablespoon of concrete. And I've drawn a little mark on here with a permanent marker where the tablespoon mark is, because it's really hard to see the actual measurements. But a tablespoon of concrete, a half a teaspoon of water, and if you're going to use color, 1/16 of a teaspoon of the pigment. And do note, it's always good to have a little bit of extra water hanging around, because sometimes you do need to add a little bit more. So to mix it, you first begin by mixing the color into the concrete. So just pour it on in and stir it up. Okay, and it still looks pretty white, but you'll see once the water hits it that it's going to end up being a nice pretty blue tone. So we've got the half a teaspoon of the water right now, so I'm just going to pour this in very slowly, a little bit at a time, and you'll see it start to clump together. Then add a little bit more. And it's still really very dry, but we are seeing more blue come through. Then add the rest. And you'll want to scrape the bottom of it. You really want to scrape all the sides, because you'll see it's like when you're mixing cake batter. There's a lot of little air pockets, and a lot of it just sticks to the bottom. So you really want to mix it up. Now, if you are going to use it to embed objects, like we're going to be doing here with that eye pin, you want to do it within 5 minutes of mixing it. So you want to work relatively quickly. And then in terms of curing, it takes about an hour. Okay, so that's a good consistency. And I would describe it almost like cake batter. And it is gritty, which is nice because it is concrete. So to make our druzy, we're first going to fill our mold partway full with the glitter rocks. And you can put as much or as little as you want. So on a couple of these, I'm going to put a lot. And so we'll put a lot in this one, a little in this one, kind of a medium amount in this one. Now we're just going to go ahead and pour the concrete over the top of it. better angle for the camera. Now, if you're familiar with working with resin, you will know that resin is self-leveling, and this to some degree is as well, but it doesn't move as easily and as fluidly as resin. So what you'll need to sometimes do is carefully just add it to the spot that maybe it didn't seep into on its own and just help it along that way. I don't want to take my stir stick and push it too much because in this case I've got that glitter rocks under there and I don't want to scoot it around. So if anything, I'm just going to ever so carefully go over the top of it and not really press down into it, but just the top layer pull. And that did it. The same with right here. Let's see if I have any more. There we go. So now we need to go ahead and embed our eye pin. So we are doing this as the last step because if we would have put it in first, the concrete is heavy enough, even though it's quite liquidy, that it would have made the pin go from being like this to being like this, which is not what we would have wanted because it would have weighed it down. I'm going to trim my pin. It doesn't need to be that long. And then I've got my round nose pliers because I just want to make some bends in it, just to help it when it's stuck in there so it's not a straight line that could potentially pull out. It shouldn't pull out, but if it's got some curve to it, that's even better. I'm going to take a piece of tape. Now I do want to, because you look at the level where it is, so it's below the top line of the mold. So I do need to make sure that this guy is a little bit curved so that he's going to sit down in there. Let me take the tape away for a minute. But I don't want him to go so deep that he pokes out the other side where the Druzy is. Okay. I'm going to do this very carefully. Okay. And then I'm pushing it down, and the concrete is seeping over it. I should have pushed that down a little bit more, so I'm going to just go like that and let it stick in there. And hopefully it's not going to show through the other side. It might. If that happens and you're doing a technique like this, because we've got a silver wire and we've got the silver glitter rocks, you can just trim the tip of it that pokes out and it's still going to be secure. But hopefully that won't be an issue. Let me show that to you one more time. And this one I am going to bend down on purpose to begin with. A little bit more. And then just make some curves. Maybe you can take a pin and help to push it down in. And this concrete is actually already setting up. If you can kind of see here, I'm having a hard time dragging that concrete. So that's still gonna stick in there. I think I got enough in there, but ideally we would have not done 3 of them at once and ended up with this curing a little bit. So just keep that in mind. You do have to work really fast with anything you're gonna embed. So I'm gonna let that be like that, but I'm actually glad that we had an instance to show how fast this did actually cure. So I'm gonna wait an hour and then I'm gonna pop these guys out and show you the finished result. Now that our concrete has cured, we're ready to pop these guys out of the mold. So I'm gonna remove the tape first from the ones with the eye pin bales. And then let me show you what it looks like on this side here. So I'm just gonna press it from the middle of the mold. There we go. So here was the one that had the least amount. Here was the middle one, and this was the one with the most. And what you're gonna wanna do is tap it. And you can tell this is very hard and solid, but you wanna get rid of any of the glitter rocks that are not embedded into the concrete because they'll flake off anyways. So there's one. Here was the medium one. And you can see it is a deeper cavity because we put more into the mold. And then here was the one that we filled the most. I'm just hoping that that bale did not poke through to the front. You see a lot comes out. And it's a really deep cavity, and that did not poke through, which is great. So each one does look different, very unique and very pretty. So it's a fun look that you can create. Also note, I think this is worth pointing out, the side that was not in the mold is more of that traditional concrete look. It's very much of a matte finish and lighter. And then the side that was part of the mold is very, very smooth, has just a slight sheen to it, and is ever so slightly darker as well. So that's something to keep in mind too. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to create concrete Druzys. You can find all the supplies for this project, as well as other projects using the concrete at Beadaholique.com.